All right. Good morning and welcome to the BlackUSA.News Morning Show. My name's Donnie Glover. We're here with the lovely Marcia Juice. Good morning, Marcia.
Good morning. How's everybody? It's a
Bless
wonderful morning. Yes, it's a wonderful morning. Still standing.
Marcia, did you know that there is some serious talk going on about Baltimore's Inspector General?
No, I've not read that. I have been deep down doing some other stuff. So, nope. What's going on?
So, this is the Inspector General who has been going after Baltimore City State's attorney.
Oh, yeah.
And the word in the legal community is that she's overstepping, she's overreaching.
So, thank you for that reminder because I'm just tired of the foolishness, right? We're talking about the state's attorney going to conferences that are empowerment conferences that have educational value. And I think that this is a typical situation where if it were anybody else sitting in that chair, we would not be in this conversation today. And if there was not melanin in her skin, and I'm going to say it out loud, we would not be having this conversation today. And it's being fueled by the Baltimore Sun, which we already know who they are and what they represent. So
Well,
I'm non-hearing for real because
well,
I'm sick of it.
well, actually, the Baltimore Sun did report how Jim Shea, the city solicitor, told this Inspector General lady to back off.
And Jim Shea's position is correct. And he did just what he was supposed to do. Now, he was with Venable for years. So this is a die-hard attorney who knows law inside and outside, up and down. And so I believe if this is what he's saying, then that's what I believe. And first of all, I was glad that he got the position. And second of all, he's being honest. And I trust what Jim Shea would say.
Well, let me just say, I don't trust anybody. Trust
Okay.
is
Well, you go ahead, because I'm not going to live my life like that and walk around not trusting everybody.
May I finish?
Oh, yes, certainly, please. By all means.
Trust is, in my world, trust is earned.
Okay.
And just because Jim Shea comes over to help Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, I'm asking myself why.
Why couldn't it be because it's the truth? It could be the truth. It's the truth. Because there's nothing there. The same thing I thought when I read the mess.
Let me answer that question.
Answer the question.
Because he's never done it before.
So that don't mean nothing. So he's never done it before. There was no need to him to do it before. So why would he expect him to do something? So why was there a need?
What is the need now?
Because go find another thing, because that don't even make sense. Why is there a need now? Because he believes that she did what she was supposed to do and there wasn't nothing there.
I disagree.
Well, how about we can agree to disagree like we normally do? Because I don't agree with you on that.
All of a sudden, this guy shows up.
Oh, man. Wake up.
Of Maryland.
I don't want nobody that's going to be the same way all the time. I need somebody to be able to be in a position to be able to look at a situation and make a decision about it and do an analysis of what they see, read it, and then speak on it. Period.
I'm asking the question, why is he out here defending Marilyn Mosby when he's never done anything like this before? And I would submit to you that when you look at, would you listen?
I heard you. You already said it. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me what you're saying.
So let me say it let me finish.
I'm supposed to keep saying the same thing and do what I want to do, and I can't change my mind, or I don't see something that needs to happen, and I can't say something different because you think I'm supposed to be what I was on something else yesterday. That don't make no sense, Donnie.
Well, you haven't listened.
I have. I heard you. You said it already 3 times.
I have not.
Yes, you did. Go ahead.
You've not heard all of the details.
Okay.
I don't really like your attitude. But anyway, so now I'm supposed to believe Jim Shea is a defender of black women. Why is he doing it? Maybe it's because when Brandy came in, he said it wouldn't be status quo. He said it wouldn't be status quo at City Hall. And so the black woman solicitor who was there, Dana Moore, who has been discussed on this show, was bumped for an, old white guy who had no credibility in the black community. So when I see somebody like that jumping out defending Maryland, yeah, I'm raising the question like, what's this really about? Okay, but anyway, Marsha, let's shift topic.
Let me just say this.
Sure.
Right, because this is whatever. So the reality is Dana got a new position in a new office, diversity, inclusion, and
they
equity.
moved her. They moved her.
She got a new position, and it doesn't matter. She's got a new position, and in that department is necessary, I think. So now we can look at the diversity, equity, and inclusion coming out of, I don't even know of any other city that has a department, which I think is, are you talking while I'm talking? Are you the same one that shut me up? Then you get your mask and put it on, boy. Anyway.
I'm a grown man, lady.
When?
And I don't need a mask because I'm in my house and my German Shepherd doesn't have
I'm trying to put this mask on your face and it won't fit. Do you see the mask? I'm trying to make the mask.
Did you see One Night in Miami?
No, I didn't see no One Night in Miami, or it's just 2 nights in Miami. I don't know.
You told me you saw the movie.
I don't know what the movie's about. I'm still back on this other mess. So I think that
Michael Johnson, if you're watching, please come in and help me. Please, Michael
Johnson, come on if you want to. But let me say this to you about that. I'm grateful that Jim Shea had an opinion and he voiced it. And I think that I personally support Marilyn Mosby, and I'm sick of people fanning flames of BS trying to deal with our people. Now, I think she's in the right position. She's the right person for that position, and she did what she was supposed to do in that position. In the meantime, I don't care what color you are sitting over there. If you are a representative of this community and you work for the city, then you are supposed to respond in kind for the city. You're supposed to represent the city. Well, that's what I believe. That you're representing the city.
I believe it too, but when I look at Baltimore and the Black Butterfly,
and black people have to start standing up about what we want, be it education, be it whatever else that we want. We sit here and we complain all day long, but until we act as a community and affect change, put stuff on the doggone election thing to vote on, to sit and make demands of the people that are in leadership, we're going to keep getting the same thing. So you just sit and complain and do nothing. And what? And then what? And then what?
I'm a worker bee.
Whatever. Is Michael Johnson coming on?
I don't know. You want to call him? Well, we're talking about One Night in Miami. Anyway, Regina King.
One Night in Miami.
Leroy, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Leroy.
Good morning. Good
you like
morning.
This little banter?
I didn't hear you, Miss Reed.
I said, you like the little banter, the banter. We have banter.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love it. And that'll get into, I guess, what Donnie just brought up about One Night in Miami and the conversations, the banter that the four of them got into as well. So I love it. I love it. I love it.
Michael Johnson, you got to fix your camera if you're going to come in. He's trying to come in because I think
I like these little things that are coming up, Donnie. You got a little picture on them, everything. You learn how to do that? All the little people talking. Hey, Michael Johnson, that's cute. Got the little picture. How you do that, Donnie? You worked on that last night, huh?
Yeah, I have been practicing.
That's cool. Michael Johnson, what's up? I see your name.
Hold up. Mike, what are you doing? I think he froze up.
Yeah, it looks like it's trying to come in.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. McKenzie, tell us about you and what you do.
Sure. I am the president and CEO of JNF Enterprises, LLC,
Say this before.
which is a distribution, publishing, and business. Oh, I think he's trying to come in.
He's got that internet essentials from Comcast. Is your internet?
You gotta get that hard line.
Is your internet moving slow?
Hey, Michael.
Do you have internet essentials?
Only $9.99. You'll never get it to work, so don't worry about it. you had to order like 5 of them to get it. Okay.
Say something, Michael.
Shameful. It's shameful. It's shameful. We need new internet companies. What's up,
Michael, can you say hello?
I can't hear you. Your volume.
I'm
Your
fine.
volume.
Can you hear me?
Now? Where you going with your hat? I'm loving the hat.
I just
No,
put it on.
Probably a hair. It's a hair day. Michael, what's up with the solicitor?
Yes. Well, I mean, I wasn't a fan of his from the time that he served as the president of the Higher Education Board when he fought against a lot of the HBCU activities that we are talking about. But I know that Mr. McKenzie was getting ready to talk about his company, so I really wanted to hear what he was going to say before I kind of stepped in. So, Mr. McKenzie, please.
No. We're going to direct the show. What do you think of the solicitor?
See how he is?
I'm not a fan of the city solicitor because of his past activity with the HBCU. I think that it was an opportunity for Brandon to keep the sister because it was historic. And I think that it's a Jim Share. It reminds me of Jim Smith and the rest of the folks who came in with some money at the end of the campaign when candidates were running out of money, and they got in and bought their way into the position. But let's also be clear that Brandon ran as lieutenant governor with Jim Share when Jim Shea ran for the governorship, and Brandon was the lieutenant governor. That there was some activity at that time. But me personally, I'm not a fan of his because I'm not a fan of the way he dealt with the HBCU issues.
What about the inspector general? Do you think she's overreaching and going after?
I think she's got it. I think she's looking.
You think what?
Well, no, I mean, I think that she went after Maryland. I think Maryland answered all of her questions. I think that Maryland answered all of her questions. And I thought that at that point the conversation would end. I mean, I don't have no problem with her going after anyone. If the end result is it's nothing, it's nothing.
And leave it alone.
So Maryland has proved that it's nothing. And just let's move on. Not necessarily from this show, but I think that she also has she's looking at politics in the future. She's it's just that pardon me. Oh, absolutely. She has a brilliant office. There are some sisters that are in her office and some brothers I know in her office who are some very, very competent people. But
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, because I got word yesterday that there's a high turnover rate in the inspector general's office.
Well, I think in the beginning that it was. I can't imagine that it is right. Well, it's a job. It's like one of these first jobs. Everyone that I know in there are either young people that I may have mentored years ago. They finished in either law school or they finished in school. So it's a run-through position. It's not nothing that you stay around because you know just as well as Martin or Mr. McKenzie knows that the city don't pay you no money.
Yeah, but I gotta say this, Mike.
But other than that,
Mike, to get a job in the city's law office would really do a law student well, wouldn't it?
It depends what type of law they're going into.
My point, Mike,
really
is
sometimes
that
they just.
My understanding is that they don't have a lot of black people in the city's law department.
Well, have you been over there to
Not
do
in
an
the law
inventory?
department, no.
Okay, that's problematic. Anyway, anything else you want to add about Jim Shea?
No, I mean,
Or
you
the
ask, and
Inspector
I just believe that these are two people that are just, unfortunately, I mean, I was surprised at Jim Shea, but he was dealing, like Marshall said, he was dealing with the law. So he was just supporting Maryland based on the law, because his
Period.
ambiguity, I hate that word, I can never say it.
ambiguity.
It's just a matter of how do you interpret it. Of her brilliance around the country, people asking her certain things about the city of Baltimore, and they were paying her tab. So, I mean, I'm sure if we were to investigate, I mean, I remember working in the mayor's offices, and 5 and 6 people would go to Las Vegas to attract businesses to Baltimore, and the city was paying for it, but yet we didn't bring a business there. Should not have been the city solicitor, would not have been my choice.
You're breaking up, Michael.
And I think that the young lady in the IG's office, I think that she does her job. She's done it. Let's move on.
Right. And it came up crickets. So let's go to the next conversation.
I will, but I will
I'm
say
sorry.
this.
I mean, everything's working fine on my end. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, it's not coming through clearly, but I've never seen an inspector general I've never seen a solicitor say anything to an inspector general here in the city of Baltimore. That's unprecedented.
I'm glad he did, because it was foolishness, and she's going to keep trying to go over and dig and dig and dig, and she's still coming up crickets. Somebody needs to stop it and keep it moving. They're getting paid to go and do their job,
totally
not
missed the point.
reinventing something because you're trying to get a headline. Come on now. What else you want to talk about?
No one has ever done this before. It's unprecedented. Never before has the solicitor gone after the inspector general. Never. Okay, well,
because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. Once you had done it and then it came up with nothing, you're going to keep on and keep on and keep on wasting taxpayers' money. For real. We've got enough waste in the city government that we're hopefully will be transformed.
Bob, please call into the show.
Oh,
meanwhile, we're going to Leroy McKenzie, One Night in Miami. Michael, did you see the movie One Night in Miami? Yeah, he's froze up. Okay. All right, Leroy, tell me about One Night in Miami.
Well, One Night in Miami is actually the story of Muhammad Ali, then Cassius Clay, Sam Cooke, Jim Brown, and Brother Malcolm X. When in the mid 60s, when Cassius Clay became world champion, and it's that night before the championship fight, and it's surrounded around that time frame, and it's about these 4 brothers that were friends at the time, and all of them, interested enough, were kind of at their or going into their peak of who they were. I think Brother Malcolm was a couple years older than them, but each of them, you think about it, I think that was when Malcolm was about to leave the nation. It was when Sam Cooke was, I mean, on the charts, up the charts, and everything else along with it. And Jim Brown was at the peak of his athletic career, playing for the Browns, and then of course Cassius fighting to become the world heavyweight champion of the world back then, because he was 22 years old at the time, and it was just I thought it was a phenomenal movie directed by Regina King. Because I knew nothing about this, and I don't know how many other people knew that those 4 individuals knew each other like that. So the story was about them, and in the midst of the civil rights era. This was smack dab in the middle of it, and the conversations that these 4 men have, being who they were, and having to deal with, like we all are talking here about the city of Baltimore, but just talking about politics and addressing those things, and just the I just enjoyed watching it and getting a better understanding of who they were, because we know of course, Muhammad Ali going on to who he was, but understanding Malcolm when he was going through the threats and everything like that, and then having to leave the nation. Sam Cooke, who I did not know at the time, he owned his own record label, which was unheard of at that time. He owned his own record label, and actually was writing and producing for other artists that were out there and everything. And then, of course, Jim Brown being who he was, the great running back at that time and everything like that. It was just awesome to learn a little bit more about them and who they were at the beginning, kind of like the beginning and peaking of their careers and everything like that, and to hear how they had to deal with the situations that they would deal with, trying to be athletes on the stage that they were, but also having to answer for that civil rights era that was going on, and just the conversations that they had. I was just intrigued by the conversations and was like, wow, and just the pressure that was on them to address those conversations. So that's a little bit about, I don't want to tell the story, but for those that that haven't seen it, that's the gist of it. But just to hear them speak on certain things, and for them to be able to talk amongst themselves, being who they were at that time and everything like that. So that's a little bit about what the story was about.
Right, that's an incredible era as well.
Yeah.
So you can see by my gray hair that I was living during that time.
and I'd be interested in getting your perspective on that, Miss Reeves, just about that. What were you familiar with it, that especially during that time? How familiar were you with that story, or were you familiar with that story?
I really wasn't familiar with the story. What was going on at that time was watching Muhammad Ali boxing on television, and hearing and buying the records and having those experiences from that era, so that was in the 60s, right? And so I was still in middle school and high school. I graduated from high school in 1970. So I had these years of my dad actually would we would sit on Wednesday nights and watch the boxing together.
Oh, okay.
At that time, yeah. But and they were very vocal, and they had an opinion, and we were all listening. We were listening, and a lot of activity and a lot of action came from those discussions and their experiences that you heard on television or on the radio. We used to listen to, I can't remember, it came out of Chicago, the radio station out of Chicago. And you had a lot of times some of those people were on those shows, and you could get it in South Bend, Indiana. But there were some serious leaders who went through a lot just to get there, and needed the support of each other in order to get through. Right. And that's where we are today, having the support of the people around you to help you get through if you have a voice, and people are trying to quench that voice.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was a part of their conversations. Like you said, was their voice, and they challenged each other. They actually challenged each other to Brother Malcolm did not bite his tongue at all.
At all
with them. I mean, and when he dug into Sam Cooke, I was hurting. I was like, ooh, but it was just interesting to understand that they were, and it's just like, and I saw it as those four are just like me. I thought about the brothers that I hang with and that I hung with, and how we can be that honest with each other, and how we can hold each other accountable like that, and understand we're not doing it to be malicious. We're not doing it to be angry. We're not doing it to be jealous or anything like that. We're doing it because we want to push each other. And to me, that's what I saw Malcolm doing. He was pushing Sam, and he said it. He even said it in there, because he wanted more from him. He thought he could do more, and he wanted to see him do more. And it was just, it reminded me of the brothers that I hang with, and the conversations that we have, and the understanding that we have to say, look, these are the things that we know that we have to address, that we should be addressing. And if if we're not going to step up, if we're not going to do what needs to be done, then hey, we're going to hold each other accountable. Right. Let's do what we say we're going to do, and just hearing them say that and do that and being on the level that they were on. Okay. And there's one comment that Muhammad Ali made. He said, we're the only ones that can understand what we're going through.
Right.
And there was nobody else that could talk to each other. Nobody else, I believe, could talk to them the way that they talk to each other. Right.
But don't you find that you have something like that with the guys that you hang out with, that there are very few people who would be able to have the same conversation that you say you have within your circle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the confidence and the honesty, right? The love, right?
Right, exactly. Because I mean, and that's when you have that brotherhood, as I call it, it's a brotherhood that you have, and I'm sure with you and the women that you're around, when you have those conversations, and I was like thinking about it, how you can relate to at least one of the characters, be like, yeah, I know one in my group that's the Malcolm. I know the one that's the Muhammad Ali. I know the one that's the Sam Cooke. You can identify with each of those characters in some kind of way. To when I know I could relate to it and say, wow, yeah, I know one of my friends is this way. I know he's that way. Yeah, that's the one that's always running his mouth. That's the one that's always joking. Those kind of things. And then you have even in the movie, there's a part after Brother Malcolm digs into Sam Cooke, they kind of separate, but you see this conversation between the four of them. They split off into twos, and they have those conversations. So you can understand, hey, he can relate to him. He can relate to him. They have they have the conversations that need to be had, and they come back together, like you said, in love, and saying, look, we love each other. We hold each other accountable. There's, like you said, this was the height of the civil rights going into the civil rights movement. So there was so much going on. There was so much going on, and so much to be talked about. And they were the voices. They were part of those
things that your takeaway for you that you could take back to you and your buddies. 3 things from that movie that you could take away and go back to your folks.
Wow, that's a good question. I would say 3 takeaways. One would be accountability. We have to hold each other accountable. Being real, being honest with each other, as far as what we want to do and what we want to see to have happen. And then the third was be you. Let's be honest. Be honest with who you are. Be comfortable with who you are. That was one of the things. Each of them were comfortable with who they were. They knew who they were. Sam Cooke was like, this is me. I understand who I am. I'm doing what my part's supposed to do. You do your part. And we all can achieve what it is that we want to achieve. So those would be my 3 takeaways and things that I could take back.
Michael, did you see the movie? I haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to see it actually performed at the center stage.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
It was performed at the center stage years ago. And the interesting thing for me historically is that the 2 main characters were dead within a year.
Yes.
Malcolm X and Sam Cooke. He had both, and of course, the rest is history as much as it is. But I took away, as Brother McKenzie has said, I took away that it reminded me of 3 other guys that I hung out with and still continue to hang out with. And which one is me? You can figure that one out. But other than that, I would just think that it is something that one you could see, just from the strength of the brotherhood, just the strength of Black men talking, which has been something that I know I pushed in my circle as much as possible, because it was literally 4 different types of philosophy that was in that room at one time. I mean, Jim Brown was in the height of his career. 2.5 years later, he was finished. A lot of people know Jim Brown only played 9 years and still held all of the records on earth for the only 9 years that he played. And then, of course, Sam Cooke, music is still being played today.
Yeah.
And Malcolm X is, Al
Still
Shabazz
being quoted.
There's nothing else to say. But and it seemed to me when I saw it was that the fact that the youngster in the room was Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just trying to figure him out and maneuver him out, because by then Malcolm had his issues with Elijah Muhammad. He was slowly moving away to become Al-Shabazz Malik, and Sam Cooke, who had been playing all of this love music and snap your fingers and dance movie, he was getting that groove in his head that, wait a minute, there's something else musically out here. And that's when a change is going to come. Music that rode us all the way through the civil rights era. So you can't, and then Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali. So all of those things morphed in that room. And there have been all types of stories of this particular meeting, good, bad, and indifferent. But I think that Regina King should get her props for putting together a good story, which was from a play, from a play. She did a good story. Casting was extraordinary, good casting. And it's something, it's one of the 4 or 5 shows that I've been recommending over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to have to watch it. I think, and I was saying before, during that era, I was watching them, right? Or listening to them at that time without being too direct about how long I'd been listening to them. But it's wonderful.
Well, you were just a baby, Marsha.
Just a baby. I was still, yes, that was me. I was still crawling around the floor.
Yes.
Wishful thinking. So if we were to look at now, how do you think those 4 characters would be functioning in today's environment? 2021. We've got Black Lives Matter. We have all of that. Who would those characters be, and what would they be saying now?
Well, I think Jim Brown has continued. I think he made some missteps, not understanding exactly sometimes he's being invited into the room with. Mm-hmm. I think that showed up in the White House when he was there. I think Malcolm would still be Al-Shabazz Malik. I think he would still be fighting for the causes of the African-American community. I think that Sam Cooke would still be writing the songs of our people. I don't think that there's too much different of who they were and who they would have ended up being, because these were 3-4 real men.
Right.
We saw that in Muhammad Ali's growing, that he didn't change. His mouth didn't get any quieter until medical conditions prevented his voice from speaking. So I just believe that what we saw in the drama position of those were pretty much what you would have saw as older men.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay,
we've just been joined by Marcel Umphery, and since this is Black History Month, Marcel has some breaking news to share with audiences here in Baltimore.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be online and on this show with you guys. It's also a blessing. I'm from Baltimore. 5 years ago, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my grandmother, the late Elizabeth Humphrey Walker, and we were watching C-SPAN. And I've never watched C-SPAN, but in those days with Grandma, we had a lot of time on our hands. So we watched this literary show, and they were talking about Frederick Douglass. And at the end of the speaker's presentation, she mentioned that Frederick Douglass was much more than an abolitionist, a great orator, a world-renowned author, but he was also an entrepreneur, business owner, and investor. And that kind of lit a fire under me to dig in and sink my teeth into more information. So for the last 5 years, I've been researching the other side of Frederick Douglass, and I discovered, even today, I just came across some new information that I had maybe skipped over, but most people didn't know. But he owned over 20 properties throughout his life. And he was purchasing properties, as early as 3 years after seeking freedom in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And he purchased properties up and down the East Coast that contributed to the freedom of fugitive slaves through the Underground Railroad. And I just think that type of information, for me, growing up in the 80s and 90s, is empowering information. It's enlightening, and it just shows another side of the great movements that our leaders were a part of, during the struggle for equal rights, and how real estate really, I believe, was a necessity in freeing our people during that time.
So tell us exactly what the Frederick Douglass, the organization, is set up to do. What does your company do?
Well, actually, I'm just a real estate investor.
Okay.
I've been investing in real estate in Baltimore since 2002. And in 2007, I started teaching people how to invest in real estate, whether that's purchasing tax liens, buying and selling in dilapidated homes, fixing houses up, renting them out. So that's pretty much my realm. But this is kind of a new passion. I'm kind of a history buff. I'm empowered by the history of my ancestors. So I'm not a historian or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy that loves history.
Well, I'd say you're a historian if you know all this history. So stop taking stuff away from you, right? And embrace it all. Just embrace it all. Because if you're doing all these things, you're telling me information that some of which I didn't know, right? So yeah. I just need you to stay in that positive role and don't let any of that be diminished. And that's just because, I got gray hair and I can say those kinds of things, right? But I think it's also powerful when we look at Frederick Douglass and the fact that he was really gangster. He
will beat you down. He will beat you down.
That boy wasn't playing. He said, right. What else did you learn about Frederick Douglass?
I learned so much. His wife, Anna Douglass, she was, we all hear the saying, behind every successful Black man, there's a strong Black woman. And, on the surface, we know Anna Douglass of being the mom, the wife that could bake the best biscuits. She was the wife of Frederick Douglass, who could not read. However, I don't care that she could not read. She knew how to manage money, and money moves this country. She knew how to understand a ledger. She knew how to present her husband. She was the first woman that invested in Frederick Douglass's freedom. She bankrolled his travel expenses, his living expenses, until he was able to get on his feet in New Bedford, Massachusetts. She pretty much held down the fort. She played an intricate role in the Underground Railroad movement, and she was one of the reasons why we have Frederick Douglass today.
And I like that fact that Marsha said that Frederick Douglass is a gangster. I'm sure you read David Blight's book.
I did not read that, but I heard a lot about it.
This is the one. You can see how thick it is.
Yeah.
This is the one that will really, you lean back and say, okay, yeah, when she said gangster, I says, okay, I'm at the gangster part. And when you said fight, I mean, he got knocked down a few times himself. Yeah. But the fact that he could garner, you're talking about the time when there was no speakers, no intercom systems. Yeah. And yet he could show up and 5,000 people would show up to hear him. And for, I do appreciate what Denzel Washington is doing, because he's buying up as much of the screen sets all around the country, because he's, as Denzel said at a Zoom meeting, he don't want nobody to mess it up. Not that he's going to play it, but he don't want no one to mess up the story. And I appreciate the way that you, Mr. Umphery, the way that you're bringing this up, because I'm in the middle of this now. And I'm telling you, if I wasn't informed before, which I was, I am really a super fan now.
I agree with you. I did not read the book. I am familiar with David Blight. I actually saw him speak at the Cedar Hill Estate during the bicentennial celebration. Mm-hmm. What I did find out is, and you probably know this, that President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are producing a film based on David Blight's book.
Right.
But I've been speaking to descendants from Douglas's family on both sides, and it just seems as though it's going to be very hard. You got to understand this man, he outlived Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And I mean, this is up for debate, but I believe Spike Lee's biopic on Malcolm X was the best biopic ever made. Mm-hmm. Frederick Douglass's life, how can we fit his entire life in 3 hours? If the film is going to be 3 hours, I think it may need to be a seasonal production, because to cover everything that he has went through and done and accomplished is going to be very hard to put into a movie.
No, I agree. And I'm afraid sometimes, because as you said, other than Spike Lee's thing on Malcolm X, I'm afraid that what could be the end result. And right. That's why I said that Brother Washington has said that he don't want, his comment was, I don't want nobody to mess it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can't, this legacy,
it's too important,
has to live on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the most important. They call him the father of civil rights. I mean, in my research, going back to Marsha's, I did discover he led what I believe is the first boycott. I believe it was on the train system. And Dr. Martin Luther King, one of our great leaders, he took some pages out of Frederick Douglass's book, as well as Malcolm X. Frederick Douglass also was the first to desegregate school system in Rochester, New York in 1857. That's powerful. He desegregated schools during slavery.
Right.
In a very racist city of Rochester. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I believe should be shared in the curriculum. I believe the school curriculums definitely need some reform, and they need to start sharing this, because growing up in Baltimore City, many of my friends, we looked up to athletes, entertainers, and the local drug dealer. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X wasn't even talked about. Martin Luther King was talked about, George Washington Carver, and just through my schooling, I went to public school and private schools in Baltimore and Maryland, and there was no emphasis on how these people made livings. And this is very, very important. This is very important. Frederick Douglass, he did have supporters. He had a team of financiers called the Secret Six. There were several financiers behind Martin Luther King Jr., both black and white, that I believe, you know, as children, they need to hear about the financial side of the movements. This is very important, because we're still fighting for equality and rights today. And if you know,
Marcel, I don't want to cut you, but I need you to get to the critical point. The movie that's coming out, the documentary, you have a problem with it because you believe it paints Frederick Douglass as a beggar.
Let me clarify that. David Blight's book, I have not read the 700+ page book yet. I was just reading the reviews, and someone wrote a review saying that it positioned Douglass as someone that was in financial distress at times and needed the help of his white abolitionist supporters financially. If that is the case in the book, I do have an argument for that, but I can't say 100% that that's the case. and the supporting facts that I've discovered online and talking to his descendants, Frederick Douglass was far from a broke man. He did have some financial losses that he withstood, but he was always upwardly mobile. He was always working. He was always running a business. So, maybe they articulated that the wrong way, or
because I think that from the way that I've been reading the book is that not that Frederick Douglass was having financial troubles, even though he stumbled a few times, as you and I could say, but the movement was being financed. And that's what you had just said about the Dr. King's movement and everything else. So there's not a fine line when I read the book, because it always shows that Frederick Douglass was what we call a forward moving Black man.
Absolutely.
He always moved forward. He wasn't moving backwards.
And upward.
And upward.
And going back to Donnie, not to cut you off, sir.
No, please.
The critical point I want to make is that this is for my generation, and I'm finding it in you guys' generations as well. Through school, we were only taught Frederick Douglass was an abolitionist, an escaped slave that was taught how to read and continued to teach himself how to read and write. We never learned about his business dealings, his career path. That, taking that out of the history books was truly unjust. It was injustice in the school system. That we should have learned about that early on.
But did they take it out of the history books, or did they just not include it?
They never put it in.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me just jump in. I want to know the panel's take on other people writing Black history. And I understand. So that book that you have in your hand, Michael, it was written by a Black man?
No, David Blight is European at a study who he's a professor at Yale, if I'm not mistaken.
Does that make him right?
No, but if you look at where he was getting his information, well, let's put it like this. I don't always agree that Black folk are the only ones can write Black history.
Say that again.
I don't always believe that Black folk are the only people that can write Black history. I just don't believe that. I think white folk can write Black history as long as it's correct. And I think that.
And can you give me an example of a white person who has wrote Black history correctly?
David Cripps on Black film is one of the prominent Black film writers about Black movies in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, who wrote incredible information about Blacks in film. I could go on and on, but I think that the point that the gentleman was making, if I would just want to reply to him, was that he's absolutely right. The story that's not being told is the story and how things were financed in order to get to where we are.
And see, that's my problem. When other people write our history, they're not going to write it with the same sensitivity that we do.
Right. But there are some that do. And so with that being said, I just think that I agree wholeheartedly with the young man. And I'm only saying that because I know I got shoes older than you, but I'm only saying that from the standpoint that he's absolutely right. The story that needs to be told is the story of the money behind the struggle.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah. That's very huge, because we don't, those are the things that we need to understand, but then I think we also need to know about, because it gives us, like Donnie was saying, it gives us a different perspective of the movement, but it also shows that money side of it, and the things that may have been done that can be done now, or those things that weren't done that can be done now as well, too, to me.
When I've been down to the Eastern Shore, I've found that there are experts on Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. My challenge is that they are not Black. My challenge is that when I see some of the murals of Harriet Tubman, one of the newest ones there on the Eastern Shore, it was not done by a Black person. When I look around Sandtown and I look at Freddie Gray and the murals that have come after Freddie Gray, I'm seeing too many that have not been done by Black people.
I mean, if go ahead, young man. You go ahead, please.
Well, definitely, Donnie, I get your sentiment, and through the research, again, going back,
as if we can draw or write.
It's I don't think it's a right or wrong and who tells the stories. If you look back at history, the abolitionist movement was black and white, so they worked together for the common good, like to abolish slavery. So Douglass had a black wife and a white wife. Mm-hmm. Both of his wives contributed to his legacy. His house in Cedar Hill, he didn't have an up-to-date will. His children wanted the property. Helen Pitts negotiated and purchases the property from the children to create a national historic site. If it wasn't for that happening, we would not even know about Cedar Hill. We wouldn't be able to visit Cedar Hill. So, I think it doesn't matter who tells the story. We're going to, of course, tell it with more passion because we've gone through the struggles, even today. But I think collectively, we both can tell the story because there's two sides.
I think I wonder too, in looking at Frederick Douglass's life and growing up in the Midwest in a predominantly white community, too often we sit down and we talk about the segregationist that we want to be able to always have our own. And we don't necessarily want white people to do that. But if we're looking at the reality of most of our communities and what we're doing and what are we doing collectively and how are we changing things collectively and what is it that we need collectively to do all the things that we're talking about, how do we have Frederick Douglass, who back in those times had the wherewithal to even want to have these things, to even understand that you're supposed to be buying a property, to even understand that you've got to do all the things that we need to do, to be able to be on a stage where there are people. I mean, he stood in one speech and he said, I don't even know why y'all brought me here because I'm a black man that y'all can't stand.
Yes.
The brother was so cold-blooded, he was like straight up with the microphone, like, wait a minute, yo, why y'all bring me here? And y'all won't let me, try to keep me in chains. You try to keep my people. I mean, he was straight up no chaser back then.
Yeah.
Right? Now, who's doing all that right now? You got all these real microphones. You got all these people that are woke. What are we doing? If we look and did a parallel with what Frederick Douglass did, put it in juxtaposition that with where we are, and just one Frederick Douglass had brought together many. Mm-hmm. What are we doing to affect that change? What are we doing when we've got blight in our communities? And I'm gonna just be straight up because it's real. We got boarded up houses. Why are we buying them? Why are we doing collective? Well, why aren't we being interested in changing our education? How come our children got the digital divide? How come our educational system can't get our kids on a daggone computer because they don't have a computer, they can't get an internet? Until we have to look inward and talk about who we are as a people, and we need to have that change because all the rest of it is nonsense.
Yes, Marsha, I can't speak to your generation, but to my generation, I'm 39. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of Black Americans that are actually standing in that position now and pouring back into our people, whether it's through financial literacy, through investing, through education. It's a movement that is happening. And since
and I hear you. I just need to say this. I hear you. But what I'm saying is there shouldn't be a Black person that's not part of that discussion. That's not part of those organizations. There shouldn't be a Black person left on the sideline not doing it. I know there are people doing it. I'm clear about that. Yeah. I'm saying we as a whole body, as a people, need to be on one accord.
Yes. Well, as information is dispersed more these days, you know, at a faster rate, I think we'll see that. I think. I
hope it happens in my lifetime.
Yes. Me too. Me too.
Hey, Marcel.
Going back to her question though, because I got to jump off in a few. I want to answer her question. She talked about how did Douglass like learn to do these things. When he went to New Bedford, when he escaped to New Bedford, Massachusetts, he actually was mentored by the Johnson family. I forget their first names, but they were abolitionists. They were also business owners. So when he got into this town, you can Google search. It's called Abolitionist Row. In this town off of the shore of Massachusetts, New Bedford, there were Black-owned businesses. He saw Black dollars circulating throughout the white and Black community. They offered jobs. So this was a new life that he was actually able to adapt to, and he learned from.
Yeah.
So I believe, you know, leading by example, someone had to lead Douglass into this life. The abolitionist, I think his name was William Garrett. I believe I messed his name up.
William Lloyd
Garrett. He told Douglass to write a book. They pushed Douglass to write a book on his life as a slave and to go out and speak. And what you all are doing right now, speaking about this information, this is key. We have the platforms now. We have the microphones. Douglass did not, and yet he was the greatest influencer of the 19th century. And the word influencer now is a career.
Right.
He was the Instagram, the Facebook. He took the most pictures. That's William Lloyd Garrison right there.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things before you leave, first thing, thank you for putting that HBCU shirt jacket on. I appreciate that big time. The other thing is, as you go forward, look up Mary Ellen Pleasant. Okay, because people always have a tendency to make a stumble when they say that the first Black millionaire was the young lady with the hair.
Yeah.
No, Mary Ellen Pleasant in San Francisco was the first Black homegrown millionaire in this country who not only sent money to Frederick Douglass, but sent money to John Brown.
Yes, John Brown.
That's the connection. So
they talk about both of them in Shamari Wills's Fortunes, Black Fortunes. Shamari Wills. So Marcel, before you go, you can't just run like that. Do you like making money, Marcel?
Do I like making money? Absolutely.
So do you have any real estate in California?
Not yet.
Well, at least.
I'm sorry?
Well, at least stick around and say hello to Cathy Adams. She is the CEO of the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce.
Hello, Cathy. How are you?
Hello.
Here. Hi, good morning, everyone. How you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, and I just learned something today because I've been doing I'm also the founder, president of the Oakland area chapter 100 Black women, and we've been doing the Madam C.J. Walker Luncheon for 23 years. A little bundles have been to all of them but one. And we've been saying, and I need to give a memo to my chapter, that Madam Walker was the first self-made millionaire. So it's like, thank you for the share, because education is power. And we've been singing that song for 23 years since we've done the event empowering others. So thank you.
Cathy, you also got to look up Annie Malone. Annie Malone was Madam C.J. Walker's mentor.
She was a millionaire.
I mean, I think that I always try to tell people, if you go to San Francisco and you see the smallest park is the Mary Ellen Pleasant Park. And that's why you don't know a lot about Mary Ellen Pleasant, because they try to hide. And that's why I think it's so incredible what this brother is doing, is that he's looking for the funding. Where did this money come from? Where is this money coming from today? Thank you, brother.
I want to make one more point before I leave. This is very important and a lesson we can take from Frederick Douglass. as I came up in real estate, I learned that location is very important in making your investments. Frederick Douglass understood that early on. When he moved to Washington, D.C. from Rochester, New York, his first property, actually before he moved there, he purchased a property right at the nation's capital, less than a half a block away. Within walking distance, he could be where all the decisions are made, okay? So right around there, I believe the White House is around there as well. So he purchased a property that he leased out as the rooms as a boarding house. And I believe, and I haven't done more research, but I believe he purchased that property purposely to be able to network with the decision makers in DC and also to be able to live near where he works. So he was able to get to those offices where he had to influence Abraham Lincoln, where he had to influence the many other politicians who were decision makers. Matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln had, I believe, passed away before he had purchased that property, but he understood he had to be where the decisions were being made to disperse his influence.
Good deal. Mr. Umphery, thank you for joining us this morning. How can people get in touch with you, sir?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram, Marcel_Umphery. And I'm also on, I have a website, a blog, marcelumphery.com, and also REIinnercircle.com. And I'm also on Facebook. I may be able to log back in, Donnie, but this has been a blessing. I love the energy. We have to continue these conversations in regards of moving our people forward. We hold the least amount of wealth in the United States right now as a people. And I believe that can definitely change. And it's because of lack of information. We all have the grit. We all have the hustle. We all have the drive. It's in us. It's in our DNA. It's in our genes. It's just lack of information. And right now, I believe having these forums with people like yourselves, we can continue to lift our people up.
Good deal. Thank you for joining us, Marcel Umphery.
All right.
So, gentlemen, I don't know how much time you have, but I am just meeting this lady, and we can't wait to talk with her. So stick around, or can you stick with us, Leroy?
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, you good?
Yeah, for a few more minutes. I just want to let the sister get her thing off. I'm sticking around as long as I can.
Well, thank you, guys.
So, Cathy, how are you?
I am doing fine. Definitely excited to be here, and thanking the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, Ron Busby, for hooking us up. So definitely excited.
We love Ron Busby. He's you know what I love about him? I don't have to be anybody but myself.
Absolutely. I'm in California, and Ron grew up here. And we just kind of stayed in touch. So I've known him a very long time. So when I became president of the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce, the first thing I did was connected with Ron Busby. And it has been an amazing journey in terms of what we've done with the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce and what we've done to uplift our businesses. And before these gentlemen jump off the phone, I want to let them know that first of all, I enjoyed the previous conversation, but when we talk about building wealth in our communities and also advocating for our Black-owned businesses, in about 90 days last year, during COVID-19, the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce was successful in raising over $1.1 million in 90 days. And the reason we did that, thank you, and the reason we did that was because when the PPP came out and the systemic racism about how our people are treated by these banks, not given the same access as a white man or a white businesswoman, it is very upsetting. And we dealt with this for a long time. But what I'm saying to people is exactly what you're talking about right now. We had to do something, step up and take a leadership role, because it's so easy to be angry. Every time I think about celebrating African-American achievements, it's great for everything that we've done, but it's what we're doing right now with our collective. So Fast forward, we were able to give out grants ranging anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 to over 200 plus businesses. And basically, it was a great help to those businesses. We have over 300 plus members in our organization. And to date, all of those businesses are still in business. It's still a struggle, but what we're doing is any access to opportunities that we have, we're making those available for our members. So that's sort of like the short story, but I think
Cathy, I got to jump in here. Now you are the recipient of the U.S. Black Chamber
Member of the Year.
Chamber of the Year for 2020. You've won the Jefferson Award for Channel 5. You won the In the Spirit Award. You've won the Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame Women in Service Award. You've won the Special Recognition Award, 100 Black Men of the Bay Area, and you won the winner of the Icon Award for 2021.
That's today.
Okay, but this is what I'm not understanding. You look like a teenager.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. No woman ever addresses her age, but in what we're living with right now, we just have to just enjoy and embrace life. But
I'm not being fresh, but fellas, does she look like she's won all these awards? I mean, she looked like a kid. No disrespect.
I'm not. We're gonna get off of that subject. But I told somebody. They said, "Well, how do you do all this stuff?" And I told them that when I get up in the morning, I'm excited about helping people, and I'm also the president of my missionary society at my church, which is very important. And I tell people every day, particularly during COVID, the Black-owned businesses saved my life. Because when I get up in the morning, I get up with what we can do for our members. And I have to go back, Johnny, to Ron Busby. We had the opportunity about 3 weeks ago to be part of a conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris to talk about the American Rescue Plan. And my chamber was one of 4 people that got to ask a question. And it's so interesting when some of the people that were on the call and you get messages via Facebook saying, well, I don't think they answered the question. And I'm trying to tell people this. Questions may not get answered in the way that you understand them or how you think a person should, but we got to move to a level where we're in the room having the conversation. This was they hadn't even been in office a month. And then Ron Busby is on the small business White House community. So what I appreciate is that this brother is sharing all of his connections, all of his resources, and everything that these wonderful gentlemen and the beautiful sister was speaking about is what we're doing as a collective, and that we've got to be more gracious. And the word that someone said is that what has gotten a lot of companies and all of us through this whole pandemic is kindness. And I think that we've lost the feeling of being kind.
I got to challenge you there, Cathy. I got to challenge you.
Well, challenge me. I'm ready. I surrender.
Biden and Harris met with the U.S. Black Chambers within 30 days.
Repeat that again?
President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, they met with you and the members of the U.S. Black Chambers within their first 30 days in office.
Yes.
But they did come with an ask.
Yes. When you talk about come with an ask, they definitely need, all of our support for the American Rescue Plan. And I've been challenged too, because they said, well, with this money, if it's approved, because my concern was about my community, the Black community, how is this going to benefit us? So when someone said to me, well, is it enough? I said, well, it's never going to be enough. But, and then the other ask when she led off with, as she ended, Vice President Kamala Harris talked more about the vaccine, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I can tell you that the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce certainly have been advocating and working with our city council members and our city to encourage our African American community to step up. And it's a very
hold up, to step up what?
No, to step up and encourage others to take the vaccine. And
so let me just say, on this show, I will not advocate to other people what they should or shouldn't do. I have my personal, but my concern is, and moving the president and vice president aside, is I've seen a news outlet in particular state, we have been paid to promote the vaccine. Michael, have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen ministers and other organizations that's been paid to promote the vaccine, and I have even had been approached. And my comment was, I'm not going to give anybody an opinion. You take it if you want to take it, but if you want to take it, have the ability to go and get it taken.
And I hear Donnie loud and clear, and certainly with me.
Let me just add this in, especially in Black History Month. Now, we've talked about the great things in our Black history, but we cannot ignore, particularly this month, the Tuskegee experiment. Henrietta Lacks and the HeLa cells that were stolen in this city, whereby the medical industry has made billions off of Henrietta Lacks's HeLa cells, her HeLa cells. We look at, mentioned sterilization, North Carolina. Mr. Johnson, a number of other experiments, and just, I don't trust them. Starting with J. Marion Sims, who is noted as the father of gynecology, we know that this so-called doctor experimented on Black women without anesthesia. So with all due respect, I don't trust anything they say.
And you know what? I am going to have to agree with you. And I think that when we think about what we're dealing with as a people and the pain and everything and the harm that's been done to our people, we cannot forget. And I truly believe in that. So I will beg to say that it has to be an option and not to necessarily promote anything on this show. And just for transparency,
I'm not though.
No. And I understand that. I know that several people have gone. I've actually have gone because I felt like because I wasn't old enough and it's not my turn yet. But I think that being out in the community and going to all of these businesses, chambers and commerce should be an essential worker. Everything we're doing is not via Zoom. So I actually took it myself. I took it. And certainly not, and when they say encourage, when I say the word encourage, I think that there's sort of an option as to what people want to do. The thing that I believe in all of that, if I just remove the vaccine, is prayer, and that our community will have a healing. And I pray every day about that, because this is, I've had a sister and a brother. Thank God they came through it in Florida and my hometown, Mississippi, Meridian. Both had COVID and they got through it. And I've had, people here that have actually, passed away from it. So when we start having these kind of conversations, I become conflicted.
I got the impression almost that the president and vice president was saying specifically to the U.S. Black Chambers, we'll help you. We'll give you the money because we know that 40% of Black businesses have died versus 17% of white businesses, but we want you to push the vaccine. And my thing is, they don't have the right. Just help our businesses the same way Trump was helping those Republican friends of his. That's our point.
Well,
and the vaccine should be their own decision.
Well, I need to get my pen here because interesting enough, that small White House Business Committee meeting is tomorrow at 9:00. And I don't think they invite press. At least they ask, are you a member of the press?
I understand.
And so what I will do, because I think it's important, I don't want to be at the table just having a conversation. And it's always good to get another perspective. And listening to you here, it's not falling on deaf ears because I've had people to tell me I'm not doing it, period.
I just didn't like what it seemed like. It seemed like, hey, we here. Number one, I need y'all to push the vaccine. It's like, no, number one, here's your money. That's what I want to hear. Hey, here's your money.
And see, and what's so interesting, because when I heard it, and Vice President Kamala Harris said, we want you to encourage, the city of Oakland got a big federal grant, and I drove by there just yesterday, and the lines are lined up for people to drive through and get the vaccines. And I basically, at the end of the day, and how can I say it? I want to take my chamber hat off for just a second. And these are Cathy Adams' words, because people have a very bad habit. When you speak your mind, then all of a sudden it's a attack on Cathy Day. So what I heard at the end when Vice President Kamala Harris said, my ears heard, encourage our community. And we do want you to continue to push. Oakland had already received the funds and they opened up the Coliseum to do the vaccines. Now, the question I have to say, or the thought I have to say, if money is being distributed to promote the vaccine, and whether the African community want to or not, do you think it's wrong? And I don't know if I'm supposed to ask you all the question. Do you think it's wrong that ministers have decided to take the funds and administer the locations to do the vaccine? And that's why I get so concerned sometimes, because if we don't do it, someone else do it. Then they put the money in our community. Then we don't take advantage of the community. Then the Black folks try to get the money, try to help the community. Then they get criticized for being a sellout. So I'm saying, how do we win? And where do we?
Well, here's my challenge. When I see TD Jakes promoting the vaccine, I don't know TD Jakes. I've never met him. They could have went and got a homeless person or a person from another country. I don't know him. I know he's on television. I know he's an influencer, but he don't influence my household. I don't know him. The preachers I talk to.
So how do we build trust? How do we build trust?
Well, that's a great question. You can't wait till you need me to say I'm your friend.
Well, that part. Yeah.
Could a guy who's trying to date a woman, he find out she hit the lottery and then he's on the phone. Hey, how you doing? Remember me? Well, 5 minutes ago, you ain't had no rap for. Keep it real. Leroy, I don't want to leave you out. You got any thoughts?
No, I mean, I'll speak to what you were just talking about with Pastor TD Jakes. And like you said, he is an influencer. Now, he may not influence your home, but he has influence in a lot of people's homes.
Sure,
this man is on. So, so I think that's what they're looking for when it comes to pastors, even the athletes. I mean, even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did a commercial with them taking the vaccine. So there is this
That's
push.
my point. Now, where were these cats when my neighborhood needed some help? Or where were these cats when we're talking about reparations? Where are these cats when it deals with issues that are of utmost significance and importance to my community?
Well, let me just say this to you, Donnie. I would say this. A lot of times we wait for somebody to come to us, and we can't do that. It's just like when I went out and got that $1 million. At the end of the day, I feel the same way. I check my mailbox every day, and I don't have a check, my reparations check. Where is my money? And I don't know if we're going to ever get it. So I'm saying the way that I feel right now is that there has to be a level of trust, but I also think that we need to see how much money did TD Jakes put up in the Black community, and that if they're going to, if this situation is going to be monetized, I think we can swallow the pill a little bit better if they're taking funds to promote the outreach for people to actually take the vaccine, that then perhaps they should invest that money back in the community. It's no different than how the banks capitalized on the loans for the PPP. They got paid for doing that. So my thing is, every bank that wrote a loan, how much of that money that your bank got paid in the millions of dollars did you actually invest? Some of the banks did donate to the resiliency fund, because I had my mind was saying at the end of the day, due to systemic racism, and we've been dealing with this for a long time, those funds didn't make it into our bank accounts. So rather than us, it's okay for us to have the conversation. So the people that got the money, how much did they give you, and how much are you going to be reinvesting back in the community? I think that will help us swallow the pill a little bit more. It's still not saying if you don't believe in it and you don't do it, at least let's raise the question. How much, look, show me the money. How much was the check that they gave you?
Now you talking.
Back, and how much you putting back in the community? Because I don't want to participate in the pimp game.
Exactly. And my thing is, I've been to the White House 40 times. So we've covered the White House. And I understand how everybody gets excited to be in presidential company.
Yes.
But don't get so excited that you forget your job. Hold them people, they work for you. We don't work for them, they work for us.
Well, see, that's
one last thing. Black people got them in there, South Carolina, Georgia. So you know, a lot of times it's like we forget, and we want to go buck dancing and tap dancing. This 2021, stop that.
And you're absolutely right. But see, this should be our call to action. And that's what we're doing in terms of accountability. December, we had a disparity study done by Mason Tillman Associates that uncovered the disparities, like most communities, around Black businesses not getting the contracts and how we've been marginalized. So when they did the study, they held it in the office for over 10 months. We said, forget that. We got together with one of our council members, asked him to come and join us. His colleagues could have dumped on him, but it was brave for him to stand up and take a leadership role. So we had a press conference at 11 o'clock a.m. They released the study at 11:50 a.m.
Because y'all made noise.
Because we made noise.
That's the only way you get it.
Listen, so now I didn't stop there, because that we have been dealing with that for over 10 months. And this stuff will tire you out, you guys. It will tire you out when you're out there fighting and you don't feel like you got your army or your community to stand with you. And I just don't want people in the audience, if you're looking out there, don't sit in your little towers and go on Facebook and ratting people out and clowning them. What did you do? I volunteer all the time. The Chamber of Commerce, I'm here because I started out as an intern. So I got a different commitment of why I'm here. I don't wake up in the morning, well, you know, I'm the president. You know, I would choke myself if I behaved that way. So I'm saying to you, I know that I'm real, and it breaks my heart sometimes because I'm working for the people. And basically, I tell people all the time, if you want something and if you need anything from me, pick up the phone and call me, because we in our minds think people are untouchable, and we got to stop that. So I'm in prayer every day, because I'm not going to be criticized because you don't believe in yourself and your goal and your ability. And a lot of times we'll let other people intimidate us. When I see somebody doing great and I see somebody, I go, shoot, how do I get one? How do I do that? You
understand? About Ron Busby. In the time I've known him since they started the chamber, I've bumped into him literally in the White House. I've bumped into him literally in Portland, Oregon. He's a down-to-earth. He understands.
I stand up for Ron. They try to criticize
That's
Ron.
What I'm trying to say.
And I fight for Ron, because at the end of the day, one thing that I said one time, I don't mess with nobody. But if you come from me with hate and negativity, oh honey, it's on. I'm going in.
Ron has been fighting. He's been navigating better than a lot of people who have tried it in the past. Let me just say this. I don't like the president and vice president. They better do right by him.
I think that they will. The fact here's
they better do right by him.
They will. He's already at the table. I wouldn't have been on that call, and I'm going to be honest with you.
I understand.
Call me what you want, because this was me when Vice President Kamala Harris came. I was like this. I was like, because I know her.
But she met you too. You know, we all stars.
But what I'm saying is, I worked with her during her journey in San Francisco, had her speak at events, so I know her. But I didn't want to come on the call, because the whole night I had anxiety, because I'm like, oh my God. And when Ron initially said to the chambers, you want to attend, when he called and said, hey, Cathy, would you like to ask a question? I'm like, hell yes, hell yes. You know, but what I had to do was, we also too got to protect our leaders, because here's what we cannot do. And I say this whether you agree or not agree. When you talk about accountability, what is ours? They're human beings that have been elected by the people for the people. They're there to do a job, but you don't get to just sit up in your room and sit up here and bitch about it, and you don't do anything about it. If you're not in your community, if you're not in your district, we have council members, they have ward leaders, everybody got a different name. But call them. When I first got this job, I'm gonna be honest with you.
They wouldn't take calls.
Listen, when I first got this job, and it was like the first 3 days in, and on Facebook, it was over 1,000 comments, and people started asking me about potholes and college loans and everything. And I'm like, because in my mind, I have some goals in terms of the chamber. You got potholes, call your district council members. If there are people that had questions, how do I get rid of my college loan? How do I reduce this? Email me here. Let's have a conversation so I can give you some resources and individuals that I talk to that have some alternative solutions and helping to do that. And then as African Americans too, at the end of the day, hell, I would love to give all my business to somebody and say, can you pay these right now? It's okay for us to ask. We deserve it. But let's just let today start a new day. What are we going to do to change America? What are we going to do to change the narrative? They're in there, and I think it's unfair. And these are the words of Cathy Adams, not of the chamber, but the OAACC does have a pact. It pissed me off when people got off that call and criticizing the call and they didn't answer them. I'm like, they just got here. You just dealt with 4 years of not even being asked to come in the room. So all I'm saying is, let's not be so hard. Give people an opportunity. So I didn't stop there with the disparity study. I contacted the mayor and say, hey, Can we have this focus group so we can take a deep dive where the contracts are being done? How are we going to change this? We already know what it is. I have Black contractors, well, screaming. I said, please stop screaming. It's already in the document. They discriminated against us. A couple of cities have sued the city. At least we're at the table working. Let us get in there and have a conversation, because screaming at people and you didn't do this and you effed up and you did, that ain't going to change anything. Y'all heard it. Policy and law. And if you don't change the paper, you can't change the narrative. All I'm doing is just a screaming Black person if I don't go through the proper channels. And we got to practice patience. I'm very impatient. I want it done now, right now, in a minute. Everybody. And
you know why? Because when I look at the Jewish lobby, they get all the money they need in the world for Israel.
Yep.
When I look at the Asians in my city, they seem to be straight when it comes to state laws, generally speaking. Their businesses are doing well. But when the Black people say something, it's always this hemming and hawing.
Well, you know, let me ask you this, Donnie. Okay, real quick, and hopefully maybe Cathy, you can bring this in too. When it comes to that point that you're just talking about, that, because we all know that, we know the Jewish community does this, the Asian community. What and I've always said this too. What contributions? Because you got to come to the table with something. What are we coming to the table with when we do that ask? We want them to do for us as a Black community, but we also, just like Cathy just talked about, they're asking us to do something too. And then if you're giving them back.
We voted South Carolina and Georgia such that they would be in office.
I got it. I get that, but it's got to be more than just your vote. It's got to be more than just your vote.
And what he's saying, Donnie,
I'm clear about that, but they got a job. I'm not into one-way relationships. I like getting.
That's true, and exactly. That's my point, though, Donnie. That's a one-way relationship. If you're saying you want them to do something for you, what are you saying that we're going to do for?
Are you missing? They would not be there had we not voted.
They didn't, but this is what I'm saying. You gave me the opportunity. They voted for me unanimously to be the president of the chamber. I made sure that I looked at what will I be doing? What would I be doing to live up to this task? So it wasn't enough to it's not enough to sit in the seat. So even though we voted and we all voted, we've got to come up. Hopefully this is not the end of our conversation and we don't need to have an interview. We just need to have a conversation. We need to put together, as Ron said, the Black agenda. Go in, you know how they say the Black bands, one band, one sound. We got to go in together with one voice, because we divide ourselves and we got to be very honest with each other.
Cathy, let me go to your disparity study.
Yes.
Let's be honest, Cathy. It's a game. It's a game. Here, I live in Baltimore City. In Baltimore County, they just got a disparity study done. They hadn't done one in 12 years. We study the study to study the study. It's just one damn study after. They know they have reasons.
But here's where you lose me. I'm not going out like that. When I told you we got the study release, I was tired. I had been on a 10, 11 a month journey, going back and forth, going to council meetings, them putting it on the consent calendar, taking it all, putting it back on. I hear what you're saying, but I play to win. And in order to get in the game, you got to play. And because of our past, and we did stuff and it didn't happen, sometimes
I'm not saying nothing happened.
No, but listen to what I'm saying. Sometimes, because I see it every day, we go in screaming. I sit in on the council meetings and we got this one person just screaming. And I said one day, I said, have you ever thought what would happen and how you would be viewed if you change the way you've acted on these meetings for the last 20-some years. Don't get it twisted. I used to scream, kick down tables. I'm an event planner by profession. I used to go in there and tell me, we're going to do it this way, and that's how you're going to do it. But as you grow and mature, there's a way in which things can happen. So when the disparity study got passed, I've now been in meetings bi-weekly with the Department of Public Works, purchasing, professional services, everybody that's doing it. So what I've been telling another group who's going in Holland, then I'm at the table, it's February. February is almost over with. We're going to see for some of the contracts that they don't need a vote for. They're on call, there may be 50,000, I don't know their numbers, where they can actually provide those without a council vote. What we're trying to do is to move that needle, have the conversation, because guess what? You will hear from me. You're not going to have me sitting up on here just to check a box. At the end of the quarter, I want to see how many contracts went to Black people. It ain't going to be overnight. We've dealt with this for years when nothing got done. And the problem is when we get at the table and then we have the conversation, they want it done right now. It's a process. So if you know me and you know what I believe in, I'm not going to sit at a table because I don't need a photo op. I don't need my name and lights. I'm comfortable in my skin. I don't want anything unless I deserve it, unless I've worked for it, and unless I earned it. Understand me. So I want to circle back with you.
Republicans don't tend to think like that. Them boys.
No, most people don't because they're mad.
Let me get this in. Those Republicans that benefited from the PPP, you know how they got it? Wasn't a damn disparity study. They got a phone call. Hey, hook him up. That's what I'm talking about.
And they got it. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Donnie. We got to get to the point where we got to build relationships with banks. So every day we're doing training with our members to get them business ready, to make sure they got a P&L statement, to make sure their taxes are done. I'm not going to lie to you. There were some businesses couldn't even apply for the small grant I did.
We know. We saw it. We saw it.
You know what I'm saying? We got to be accountable. It's not fair. Yes, it's wrong. I cry too. But we've got to step up. You don't think when I was
Cathy, historically, we have always stepped up. This is the 100th year of the destruction, of the commemoration of the destruction of Tulsa's Black Wall Street.
Yeah, Black Wall Street. I mentioned that.
Did everything. They did everything. Hold up. They did everything right. And got bombed from the air by this government. So no, they don't have a track record.
So let me ask you this different question. I feel the stripes on my back. I feel them. Even though
who hit you? Somebody hit you.
Who is that?
Somebody hit you.
I'm just saying they're not physically there. But when I think about how our people were enslaved and everything that we've been through, I cry. When I went back and just was reading about Greenwood and Black Wall Street, I cried reading that. I cried. I got emotional when I was doing a Black History Month speech, and it was for a corporation. And I said, let me go on this web and see what they've done for the Black community. It's never going to be enough. But when I got ready to speak,
let's let them try.
But let me tell you something. I spoke for this company. Yes, they probably could have done more, but they donated $100,000 to the Resiliency Fund, asked me to speak. And then with their Black employee resource group, I saw where they were putting money into that. They supported Black Lives Matter. Because guess what? I'm human. I was getting ready to speak and getting ready to go in hard. But what I did was, let me see how they care about Black people in the Black community.
I agree.
I'm from Mississippi. I'll take my earrings off. I'm always ready for a fight.
Are you from Oakland?
No, I'm from Meridian, Mississippi.
Oh, they must fight down there too.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is that, yeah, I know how to do all of that. But I'm telling you, I get it and I understand it.
Fannie Lou Hamer from Mississippi, right?
Who is that?
Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes, Fannie Lou Hamer. Yes, sir. This is what I'm telling you. I want us, if not today, then when? It's not now, then how? Let's take all this bottle of pain, everything we saw our people go through. Let's take this pain and let's now come together in unity. Imagine when they talk about how much money we spend in the Black community, if we can all get together, we talk about it, it's not easy, and put all our monies there, but then we got to have the fight. Whether it's Leroy going to be the president, is Donnie going to be the president?
Oh, no, I don't care.
No, that's real. Come on, Donnie, you're not escaping this one. You know how we do.
I want to be on a winning team. I vote for you to be president. I nominate you.
But Donnie, that's you. That's you. If you check the record, like
he's starting this nemesis stuff. Come on, Leroy.
But Donnie, but what you're saying is everything you said today is real, and I'm going to be tuning in now that Ron has introduced us because these conversations become overwhelming. I can't tell you how much I cry, how much when I talk to my sister in Mississippi. And we're trying to teach our young men, when you're pulled over, put your hands up here. Let's fight and sue later. Zip, zip.
Survive the frisk.
That's what I'm trying to do. Is that a thing? You need to start that. Survive the frisk.
My daddy told me that when I was about 12 years old. You got to survive the frisk.
I like that.
Is that a national movement? I like that. Can we
just started it. You got to survive the frisk.
And the reason that is so critical, it hurts. The attorney Crump had posted something on Twitter, and there was this man in looks like a train station or something, and the officer is just beating him in his face. It's obvious that he's a homeless man. They're trying to pull his hand back, but it was 5 of them on top of him.
Cowards.
And it breaks your heart when you see that. And the first thing I want to do, which I want to let you know how real I am, I want to go out and fight. And I want to be able to see what they feel like if I just punch you for no apparent reason. I want them to see what that feels like. So that breaks my heart when I see it. And my sister was telling me that she was watching the news, 2 young men in the car. And first of all, you got some of these police, and I'm just saying, some of these police that's got on that uniform, that didn't have the confidence that they needed, and all of a sudden, this making you feel like Big Willie, and just going out and harming people. And like my sister said, and then they leave their job, and they just get suspended and still get a check. So we can't solve it all today. We'll be hosting our police chief. We just got a new one elected. And, I get so emotional when I talk about that part because you feel helpless. And I'm going to tell you something. When I think about when we got that money, don't think I'm crazy. That was right in the midst of George Floyd. George Floyd, if America, we've seen it time and time again, but to see that with your eyes and witness that, everybody was trying to help Black people. And what did I tell people? I said, well, this is an opportunity to have them invest in your community because nobody could deny that. We saw it with our own eyes. 8 minutes. We saw it with our own eyes. And when you saw how America stood up, that right there speaks volume. The entire world showed up. So what did we do to capitalize on that momentum? Not in celebration of this unfortunate loss.
No,
but his life cannot be in vain.
Yeah, the money.
His life cannot be in vain. So when they started donating, I got mad with one of my friends because I'm like, I'm in the middle of the resiliency fund and I can hear her voice saying, well, I influenced my company to make a donation. And I'm like, do y'all understand what I'm trying to do to raise money for here? And you gonna get up here, well, I influenced my company. And that's supposed to make you feel good? Yeah, it's great that y'all gave money to the National Defense Fund. Here we go again. Our people go out there and fight, then they use the money to get them out. So why can't we, at the end of the day, when somebody told me, they said, Cathy, that was necessary protesting because it raised the voices of everybody. So I'm saying we got to utilize that for our people and how we're going to fight with our voices. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. Somebody walk up and say something crazy to you. It's hard to not want to fight, you know, or somebody cuts me. Somebody cut me off the other day and I said, oh, don't judge me. I said, I just want to pass by and throw a finger. And guess what my mind said? Girl, I better not do that. They may have a gun, and then I done got shot in the face because I'm reacting.
It happened to me yesterday, and I said, you know what? I'm going to ignore this person.
Yes.
I'm going to stay focused on where I'm going. But initially,
I'm telling you, it's real.
I wanted to do a pull-up.
And then now
just give them that look, you know, like.
And then we wouldn't have your handsome face. So what we just demonstrated is that we're human too. And what we just demonstrated is that anger that we have, not just for a simple somebody cutting us off, but we're human beings. Sometimes I hate that I'm the chamber president because I can't say everything I want to because I've been practicing on my diplomacy skills. See, I say what most people think. I do. But I understand that when you're representing people, you can't always say your real words. I ain't fake by no stretch of the imagination. If you ask somebody,
you can't cuss people out like you once would.
Yes, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord.
So give me something good. Number one, we have a virtual town hall Friday night, and you have to be on the panel because the topic is how to better support Black business, and we must have you. I don't know what your schedule is.
I will look. Anytime they have an opportunity, I will show up. I didn't get to tell you because I don't want people to think, oh, she does everything. I saw
your resume. You do everything.
Look, next month is Women's History Month, and I started Powerful Women of the Bay in partnership with Child Leadership Institute in Oakland 12 years ago. And what I decided to do was to honor women in the C-suite and a diverse group of women. They're not all Black. I figured, hey, we got Madam C.J. Walker Luncheon where we celebrate only Black women. So out of that, working with that organization for 23 years, I said, we need an event that represents all women, because we need to hear their story so that it may impact some of our young women that are in the audience on how they got there.
But do you know about William Leedsdorf?
Yes. San Francisco. Yes.
First Black millionaire in America.
Well, Wells Fargo, we don't want to say names. So the bank affiliated, I'd worked with them on numerous projects, you know, back in the day with that in some of their Black History Month program. So what I'm saying, Donnie, is that, you know, I don't know how much time and I don't want to keep yapping, but I want to say this to you. I tell people all the time, I don't know everything, which is why we have to employ others to work with us. I'm not going to dive into what I don't know about. Sometimes people get all philosophical and what have you. Like I learned something today, and that's going to be valuable because I'm going back and I'm going to be emailing Aaliyah Bundles and say, hey, you know, how do we rewrite this history, or how do we include when we're telling this story? Because
I gotta ask this, do you know how California was named?
No, I actually don't know how California was named.
It was named after an African goddess named Califia.
Love that. See, this
Look
is good.
And then you also got so you know they had black Indians out there.
Yes, I'm aware of that. And I've been here. Oh, there's Maurice.
Marcel.
Marcel. We needed you.
Yeah.
When me and Leroy we was in a fight with Donnie. Where were you when we needed you?
Yeah, you can get in fights with Donnie. I've been working with Donnie for almost 20 years now. So
What's up?
So Marcel, I don't know if you know, but Cathy she's the CEO of the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce. She was with the U.S. Black Chambers when they spoke to the president. She's all about she and her team raised over $1 million
1.1
in Oakland, and she did it how short? 30 days?
90 days doing COVID-19.
Wow.
The pandemic was on.
The resiliency fund. I mean, we need that type of thinking here. And plus, she's from the home state of Fannie Lou Hamer, who got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That's right.
I actually just joined the Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, good for you.
Recently joined that. And I visited Oakland maybe 2017 for the NBA Finals.
So what were you doing here?
I was actually there. I had a surgery at Stanford. And it was my birthday, and I said I might as well live it up, go down to Oakland. I've never been there. And I caught an Uber from San Francisco to Oakland, and I got my hair cut down there at a local barbershop. And then
how much was the Uber ride?
I can't remember. That might have been like $70 or something.
My God, brother, that's a plane.
It might have been between 70 and 100. The crazy
you went to Stanford. You didn't pay that coming from San Francisco to Oakland. You paid that to go to Stanford.
Maybe. I know Uber to Oakland though.
Uber to Oakland is about $20.
Okay.
So if you paid that, we need to go file a lawsuit and get your money back.
No.
My daddy would say, "Did you feel something hitting you in your back when you left?" That was the chain.
You know what? While I was there, I encountered racism twice.
Really?
While I was in San Francisco, there's a library in San Francisco that's hundreds of years old. Bobby Fischer, the famous chess player, visited there before, and it's a chess club on the top floor of this library. And I went, and the security guard asked for my membership because you had to be a member. He was like of German descent. And this white family walks in, and they jump right on the elevator. And I'm like, oh, wait, they got in. I can't get in. So we had a back and forth, and ended up leaving. And I emailed all their board of directors at this library, and they actually they emailed me back apologizing. And this was before, a lot of people were going. I wasn't really astute with my phone. Like, I could have put my phone out, I could have went viral. But I told them I was going to contact the NAACP and things of that nature. And I go back there, and the guy's totally different. They tell me to go back, and he's totally different. So then I go to the game, the NBA Finals, and LeBron James had just had the N-word spray painted on his house out in California. And he had to go and play in the NBA championship game. And I went to the Nike store in San Francisco and purchased the Equality t-shirt. And it's on, if you go on my Facebook, you'll see this. And I wore all black to that game. And I was a Golden State fan. But I was so mad about what happened to LeBron James. I said, I got to represent. So I wore all black Nike sweatsuit, socks, shoes, everything, Equality shirt underneath. And I go to the game, and I'm going to share something a lot of people don't know. Kevin Hart Jay-Z, Emory Jones, they were at that game. Jesse Jackson was at that game. I'm going to get to that story in a second. But as I walk up, a security guard, not security, they had armed law enforcement there. I had a bulge in my cargo sweatpants. It was a huge bulge. Yes, you could have taken that to be maybe a weapon, but the guy comes up to me with an AR-15. What are you doing? What is that in your pocket? This white officer. I've never told this story. I told it to a few of my friends. And I say, it's a book. And I pull the book out. But he assumed I was coming. Now I got there like 2 hours before the game because I wanted to get it. I wanted to be able to see the players warming up. So I get through. This is before I get to the checkpoint. He came away from the checkpoint and pretty much accosted me and stopped me in my tracks. And I have common sense. Guy comes up to you with an AR-15 and you're unarmed, you better comply. So I simply just complied, said it's just a book. And so I get in there and LeBron James is at the 3-point line practicing. He has his Beats headphones in and I'm sitting close to the floor. He stops what he's doing and he looks. We give each other a head nod because he saw my shirt. And I knew what he was going through. He had to perform that day. And they did the national anthem. And I did not want to stand up. I did not. But I stood up. And right after the national anthem went off, Jay-Z and his entourage walked out. They didn't acknowledge the anthem. They had floor seats. And I saw that as a sign of protest. I said, Jay-Z didn't acknowledge that. He walked out after the anthem. But I just wanted to share that. But
I'm glad you shared that because Donnie and I, when we were talking about, the funds and tying that into that happened right during the midst of George Floyd. And we were just talking about, I didn't write that down. What did you say, frisk? What did you say?
Got to survive the frisk.
Survive the frisk. And I don't know, Marcel, if that's a movement, but we need to start survive the frisk because basically here you are, an intelligent brother going to the game, got your ticket, supposed to be in the room, was invited to be in the room. And then someone walks up to you and ain't nothing about your face that looks like you want to harm anybody. You're walking to a game and everybody knows how much a game costs. So ain't no regular black folk just going to be rolling up in there unless you done paid for this expensive ticket to be up in there.
Like $3,000. I paid like a little over $3,000 to sit 16 rows.
You heard what I said.
I just want to talk to you, sorry, Cathy, about advertising here on this platform. We really, it won't even cost you $3,000. That's a sales pitch.
Well, we want to look. We gotta support. But Marcel, thank you for sharing. And like I told him, we could yap all day. But I think that supporting the Black press is critical. That's another way that we can raise our voices. And so I want you, Donnie, to send me, your advertising link. And another thing is too, Mr. Donnie, that sometimes we gotta ask for what we want. And just because you're there, and I can tell you this, I also am an event planner, entrepreneur by profession. And I used to make sure everybody was in the room. I did my black tie VIP galas, worked with all the celebrities and all of that. But I used to say, I give all these people tickets and making sure they got VIP access and they're not calling me get into contracts. Did I ask? No one is coming to get you. And that's why I'm saying accountability, whether it's the White House, outhouse, whatever. We have got to ask for what we want and we've got to come together. I don't know what Marcel is trying to raise money for, and here's another thing too. We've had some of our people that have raised funds and they didn't kind of go where they needed to go.
They lied.
And so people are ambivalent when it's about putting their money in. So what I did for the resiliency fund, I hired a marketing company that's a member of the chamber, did an impact report, had the pie chart there, showing them the different fields that the money went to, a complete list of every single person that got the check. So when we do checks and balancing, because when you start raising large sums of money,
yes,
you have got to be able to have checks and balances.
Integrity.
I didn't judge the committee. I sat in on it, but I didn't vote. People were sending me messages to my phone. Oh, I thank you so much. And I'm like, thank you for what? I got the grant. I'm like, oh, congratulations. Because transparency is critical. So if Marcel is raising money and you got a fund.
Are you raising money, Marcel?
Marcel, I thought I heard something about you raising money earlier.
No, I'm a real estate investor. So I actually buy properties and then I borrow money for some of the properties that I purchased to fix up. So we borrow money from private lenders, which are people like you yourself. We borrow money from hard money lenders. These are folks that basically broker money at a higher interest rate and they get paid on their points.
And they knock on your door at 6 o'clock if you're late, right?
Yeah, they call you. The interest payments. And then we borrow money from commercial banks.
So with your company, have you considered, because this is another thing too, when I think about the profession that I'm in, I think there are a few Black hotels, but what are you doing or what do you think you could do in terms of leveraging resources? Because I've often thought, how would it be great if the community, we go to the city, they donate a building like they do for others, and we pay $1 for it.
Yeah.
And then we develop that, create a state-of-the-art multimedia, so we can teach our kids technology, have our events when it's time to come out of COVID, have our meetings and travel and do that. So those are the kinds of things that I'd like to see us collaborate with, even if it's not in my city or if it's in your city. And
Right.
when the sister talked earlier about a collective, that's where we're going to be able to see change. And wait for it, everybody ain't going to be able to go because they're not ready.
I got to pose this question. Have any of you been able to see our celebrities get involved with the Oakland Chamber? I'm working with a group out of New York, the Black Business Empowerment Commission. I keep asking them, have you tried to reach to the hip hop community? How do we get our movie stars, our celebrities, since they can get out there, hold up, Cathy, and promote COVID, can they get out there and promote Black Wall Street, the Black Chamber? Can our celebrities, LeBron is clearly doing, and I've also heard this, let me just add this, well, a lot of celebrities are doing things, they just fly under the radar. Ain't got no time for being under the damn radar. You on TV rapping, I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. What about Black Wall Street in every city where there's a hip hop?
You're on point, and I will say this because now we're getting somewhere. I have invited celebrities to participate in my programs, and I will let you know, we have paid them. They've given great fees. I won't call any of the names because I might need to go back. But what you just said is I've not really asked them. So even like when we're talking about money right now and helping our communities, with all the celebrities, is each of them just gave $100,000. And if we can get a movement, but that goes back to the plan. We really need to pull a plan together in terms of the Black agenda and be able to create a criteria. And if we can raise this money, the celebrities can get a write-off, particularly the ones that's always got tax issues. They should have been donating that money. You're not going to be able to keep it.
I see LeBron doing it. I see the brother with the basketball doing it. But what about these other rappers?
But we haven't called to action. It's the call to action. Yeah, it's a call to action. I know Jay-Z and Beyonce, they're always helping entrepreneurs. And, Marcel is young is here. What do we do, like he said, to get that movement? Because We need to ask. They've got a celebrity list, but with relationships. And I do have relationships with some of the actors, primarily in LA and in Atlanta. So basically, we need to think about what can we put together? What are we asking for? What is the benefit? What is the return on their investment? And why we need their money and what we're going to do with it. If we got to ask. I just don't think we've asked. See, we're waiting. We think because they got money.
No,
they got deals too. They got
I got a different take. We are big on pushing our kids into sports. My boy's a star football player. My boy's a star basketball. My daughter's okay, all of that, blah, blah, blah. I went to Dunbar. We done seen a bunch of celebrities. What is the give back? To whom much is given, much is required. But these days, we just push, and we don't even send our kids to black schools to play. Big ups to Deion Sanders down at Jackson State. But I'm just saying, we have everything we need. You talk about sports. We had, before there was an NBA, we had the Negro Leagues. We had the Negro Leagues. We were self-sufficient. But then our players want to go over there and play for them other people. And let me just tell you this, Marcel Umphery, do you know about Kurt Flood?
I've never heard him.
If it wasn't for Kurt Flood, brother, there would be no free agency.
Yep, I remember that.
We are so significant. We are beggars sitting on bags of gold. Listen, we've went over time.
I like that. Beggars sitting on bags of gold. I like that.
We got to get your final thoughts. We got to close up.
The mayor of Stockton, California. His name's not ringing my bell yet, but I think you should try to connect with him. But I think your vision is on point, and I think it starts with that plan and creating the strong foundation with the right infrastructure, having the financial advisors, having the accountants, so those checks and balances are always, on point. That it starts there. Numbers don't lie. People do.
Kevin Lincoln, mayor of Stockton.
Yes. And we meet with the multicultural chambers, and I need to make sure that she's on that. Is a female?
Man.
No, I will reach out because I'm sharing my knowledge transfer about the resiliency and how I did it. It is no secret. I looked at it as one big old fat fundraiser because that's what I do for a living. Yep.
You look like a brother or Latino.
I'm sorry.
No, I'll reach out because that's what we need to do. And then we get calls every day for these investment companies, but they're looking to invest in companies that are doing like, $1 million in sales. So I don't count everybody's money. So I send it to my membership person and say, send it.
I'm actually talking about Michael Tubbs. He was
former mayor.
Former mayor. Michael Tubbs, he was really in touch with our people and helping our people get out of poverty. He actually paid several residents a stipend. But looking at who Michael Tubbs is, I don't know what he's doing right now.
I'll look him up and do that. When you guys tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I think that don't let this be the last conversation. Whatever the what is, Donnie. And listen, one of the kids said to me, this young man, he just relocated here to work with his uncle in the cannabis business. He's 27, right? So his uncle was telling him about me and what I done. He said, well, because I was telling another young lady about her business and to contact me so that I could find the money for her to feed the seniors since they didn't have any more money. I said, well, look, tell me what it costs. Tell me what, give me the information. So he said to his uncle, he said, well, she raised $1.1 million. He said, she's a bully.
You're a good bully, and we love you. I'm just meeting you, and I love you. And I thank Ron Busby for connecting us. How can people get in touch with you, Cathy?
Yeah, Cathy at OAACC.org. And our website is OAACC.org. And if you want to email me personally, Cathy, CATHY at OAACC.org. And I will call you back and email you back. I promise.
Marcel, how can people get in touch with you?
You can reach me at Marcel_Umphery on Instagram, and also my website, marcelumphery.com.
Okay, Leroy.
Sure, you can reach me at www.
Leroy, I need you. Bring that energy. Pump it up now. Come on.
Come on, Leroy.
www.jnfenterprises.com. I'm also on social media, JNF Enterprises on Instagram, and then also YouTube as well. JNF Enterprises. Pretty much everything is JNF Enterprises. You can reach me on.
And he's an author, and he helps other people publish their books.
Oh.
As well as business consulting. Cathy, I want to talk to you. You like Donnie said, you are the bomb lady, and the great things that you're doing out there in California. That blueprint, you got the blueprint for what needs to be happening here, Donnie, for real.
Good deal. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Hello and good morning.